on your camera, and that's perfectly fine. But we still want you to chime in. We have some pictures I'm going to show you. I want you to select one picture from the 27 pictures presented that identifies with the transformation you would like to make in your life. Right? And you can start putting things in the chat too about why are you here today? Because we want to capture that as well. Remember the number of the picture you selected. Describe the picture you selected and share why that picture resonated with you the most. Now, unfortunately, we have 36 people on the call and we won't be able to go through, every person, but I know we have in groups like this, some people are going to talk and some people are not. We already know that because I do a lot of Zoom sessions and I'm the one who don't want to talk a lot of times. But I know there's some people that would appreciate this kind of exercise. But even if you are not talking, I want you to think about for yourself, what picture resonates with you? I'll show them to you as it relates to a transformation you would like to make. In the first 15 pictures. And as you look at them, think about, does one of these pictures resonate with me in terms of how I identify with the transformation I want to make? And here's the second group. All right, you guys have the rules. I would like to hear from some people. Just call out the number so I can go back to it so people can see it.
Baron, if you would go back to the first set of numbers.
Okay.
I think I would like to be like number 9, the eagle. I want to stand tall. I want to stand above all the obstacles underneath me. I want to see, my perspective needs to come from higher. So maybe just, being a spiritual person, centered around God and just the height of the eagle. Yeah. And we know that, eagles fly high. So I think that was the one that immediately resonated with me.
And if I ask you, whoever this is, if I ask you one word that's deterring that for you right now, what would you say? One word.
One word?
Yeah, one word.
Determination is what comes to me.
Okay, great. Thank you.
I'm sorry, and this was Yolanda. Sorry.
Okay, thank you, Yolanda. Someone else.
Baron, this is Charlene. I would say picture 1. And the reason that I say picture 1 is because that picture looks like looks very relaxing to me. And one of the things that I'm working on in my life is actually learning how to relax. I have done so much, not only in leadership, but with church, with work, planning, and I am naturally a planner. So my mind is always thinking about the next thing I have to do, the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. And so I have actually gotten into a mode of mind spinning. So even when I'm supposed to be relaxing, I'm sitting there thinking about how that time could be used to do something. And so I know that actually relaxing, not just saying I'm going to relax, but actually doing it is something that I need to get better at.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that, Charlene. Somebody else want to share what picture resonated with them?
I would like to pick number 1 as well. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Right. And the reason for that is it shows someone, moving from one place to the other, but in a calm setting.
Yeah.
getting away from it all, be given time to meditate and explore, to appreciate nature in an environment where you don't have to think about the hustle and the bustle of life.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that is what number one says to me.
Okay. Thank you.
And I love water.
I'm sorry, say it again.
I say I love water and I love being on a boat.
Me too. Not some boats, not all boats, but I do love.
Well, where I grew up in a fishing village, my first boating experience will be what we call a pirogue.
And where are you from?
Trinidad.
Trinidad.
West.
Yes.
Yeah.
Nice. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for
You're
sharing.
welcome.
Somebody else. We're gonna want to do a couple more people before we move on.
Can you put on the second slide again, please?
Sure.
For me, it's number 17. My theme of the year and what I'm meditating on this year is focus. And so this kind of looks like somebody was very focused in shooting those darts. So that's the one I'm going with. I don't have a whole lot more to say.
Yeah, that's good. Can you think of, I'm gonna do like Yolanda, a one word that keeps you from being focused?
One word that keeps me from being focused, I would say distractions.
Yeah, just distractions, right? Yeah. We're in the midst of a pandemic. People have surged the capital. There is so much stuff going on that it's easy to be distracted, right? Very easy to be distracted. Very easy to lose your focus in the midst of what we're going through right now. Somebody else.
Well, Baron, somebody shared from the chat that number 27 really appealed to them. They said that it showed great beauty, but it was kind of scary as well. So that's just that dichotomy.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's somebody like they walking across the bridge through all of that water.
Yeah, I was saying that it's a scary point of view being up there, but it's still beautiful. It's scary, but it's taking you to new heights, and that's the thrill of it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You know, and we're going to talk some about fears because fears do become those sabotagers for us in terms of our success. And we'll spend a little bit of time talking about this evening. Thank you for bringing that up. That's really important. We really don't, you know, I was teaching a class at UNC some years ago. It was a leadership class. And I started doing some work around fear. And because I struggled with some areas of fear in my life some years ago, but for a while, my number one fear was the fear of failure. You know, how many of you experienced that? You know, you can put that in the chat. If you guys, can you see my screen? Is it small? Okay.
Yes, if you could put it in presentation,
Okay.
I think it would be better because it's taking up half the screen instead of the whole screen.
Okay. Hold on 1 second, okay?
Yeah, that's better. That's better.
That better?
Yeah, that's better.
All right, great. All right, great. So we'll take one more before we move on. Anybody else have a picture they want to share?
Hi, good night.
Hello.
Hi, Timothy from Trinidad. And I'm looking at number 24. And the reason that appeals to me, apart from the fact that I mind chickens, is the fact that to me that picture shows that in order for you to make any kind of progress in life, you got to endure struggle. That the shell represents the struggle that you face in life. And, you know, the thing is, through biology and stuff, if it is that, you know, you see an egg and you see the little chick trying to, you know, struggle to break through, if it is you have any kind of human intervention and you try to help that chick, yes, the chick will come out of the shell, but it will eventually die because it needed to go through its own struggle to get its first breath of air and stuff like that. So similarly in life, you know, we have to go through these struggles in order to be successful, like the new chick we seen in the picture there. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And there's a lot of things that keep us from moving forward in life. And so part of this today, I want you to start thinking about when you were a child. And part of this presentation, and I wanted it to be not just you know, some typical information that maybe you've heard before, because it is. There's things that you will definitely have heard before, but I want you to think about it in terms or through the eyes of a child, through the lens of a child. And why is that important? Because when you were a child, you thought about things very differently. You didn't have those fears that you have. Isn't that something, the things, if you have children, right? If you have children, we always tell our children, be careful. That's an adult thing. The kids they're like, let's do this, right? We don't have any fears or ambitions. They just want to be able to do it. You know, my daughter jumped out of a plane a couple of years ago. You know, I think you guys did that as well. I would never do that, okay? I would never do that. But our children don't have those fears. So I want you to think about some of the games that we used to play when we were younger. And I want you to put these in the chat. What was your favorite child games growing up? Some of your favorite, and I love the fact that we are all different places geographically. I used to live in Brooklyn, New York. And so the games that we played in Brooklyn, you probably still played in Trinidad. The games you played in Trinidad, kid games, the same games you played in Georgia or North Carolina or Idaho, right? That's the one thing that I love about children's games. Oh, hide and seek, snake and ladder. Somebody gonna have to explain that one. I'm not sure what that one is. Hopscotch, hide and seek. Now that's the one that, of course, everybody knows about. And that's really the entry to how do we get the transformation. So I used to play hide and seek. And so you know the game, right? You go and you would go against the tree, you put your eyes, close your eyes. And when you opened your eyes, what happened? Everybody scattered. Nobody was there. And you had to figure out where were people hiding. And that's how really transformation is. It starts eluding us as we get older. And there's reasons why. But the exuberance that we feel when we capture somebody or tag somebody or make them it. So think about it for a second. because I want you to start thinking about this in terms, and we're going to go through quite a few. Every step is actually attached to some kind of child's game, because I want us to start thinking about not all the struggles and challenges that we had, the bad relationships that we may have been in, the weight that we can't lose, the job that seems to elude us, you know, all these different things that tanked us in our process to transform. But we love, let's see. I need to stop moving. All right. But we love transformation, don't we? We love these pictures, right? We love to see Oprah, Greenleaf. I love that show. We love to see these transformation pictures. You know, I talked about the butterfly earlier. It's just a mysterious marvel, a God creation. And when we think about these kind of pictures, we say, oh, that's what I want to do. All right. Look at Al. Y'all remember him at that weight? Isn't that something? And the picture in the middle, and sometimes we even have our two faces, right? And then, of course, Extreme Makeover. We love those shows. How many of you watched those shows? What was your favorite one? Right? We love Extreme Makeover shows because we like, look at her. Ooh, but now look at her. And people are sitting back at home like, oh, I want that. But they don't know she almost died in that bariatric surgery. You know, there's a lot that happens in between those transformations. Look at some of these pictures. One of my favorite movies. What's the movie in the middle? Anybody? Put it in the chat. Who is that? What movie is that?
Trading Places.
Trading Places. That is one of my favorite movies because it shows transformation, right? I mean, Eddie Murphy was a bum on the streets and became this, you know, tycoon investor. And on the opposite side, when you start creating bad habits, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit, you see what happens to Dan Aykroyd. Some of my favorite pictures in the show I used to watch, the transformation, what they do with houses. Move That Bus. Y'all remember that? I used to love that because they take these houses that's terrible or need a lot of repair, and they turn them into little mansions for people. We love that. So let's talk about for a minute why resolutions don't work for most people. So somebody put in the chat, what's your New Year's resolution? What's your New Year's resolution? But I know some of you have them. Some of you may not, but some of you have them. What's your New Year's resolution? Y'all see any coming through?
Mm-hmm.
Be consistent, increase focus on health, to redirect my focus from everyone to self. Yes. And Erica said, I didn't make one this year, but they're usually to lose weight. I co-sign. Be intentional. I love that.
Which one? What? Say it again.
Be intentional.
Yeah.
And someone says, I choose not to do a New Year's resolution, but to understand my intentions and follow through. Become fitter and continue to study, find a job, be more spiritual, love my family more.
That's
and
excellent.
I have, instead of a resolution, I have a word that's more like a theme for the year. And my word is abundance.
Yeah. So that's good because a lot of people do have resolutions. And a lot of people don't keep their resolutions. I was at a bakery cafe last week and I was asking the guy, I said, how was your business? during the pandemic, he said, actually, the business is pretty good. He said, but we're slow right now because it's January. And he said, you know what happens in January. He said, people are hitting the gym. They made their resolutions. He said, but they'll be back. They'll be back in February. And I thought about it. I was like, that's so true. You know? So your resolution isn't specific enough. So one of the biggest reasons people fail to keep their New Year's resolution because it's not specific. You know, you just can't say, I want to lose weight and just leave it there, right? You have to actually make your resolution very specific in order for you to follow it. You aren't framing them positively. And I like something, Cara, that you read. Somebody said they want to be more fit. Instead of, I just want to lose weight or I want to lose 20 pounds or whatever, I want to be more fit. That's positively framing that same thing, you know, because in the process of you becoming more fit, guess what's going to happen? You're going to lose weight, right? And so be careful about how you're framing things, right? And then your resolution isn't about you. It's for somebody else. You know I have my class reunion coming up and I got to get into this dress or this suit because I don't want people to see me this big. Now, it ain't about you, right? And I see people smiling. It ain't about you. It's about what you want them to think about you, right? And part of the challenge and the struggle with that is once that event is over and you've met your goal, guess what's going to happen? You're going to go back to where you were. I had a client of mine, because I used to be a personal trainer for 4 years. One of my clients lost 70 pounds. Anybody in the group want to lose? I don't know about 70 pounds. That's a lot. She lost 70 pounds, and I was working with her for several months, and she was really doing good. But the problem was she was making some changes, but she wasn't really making a transformation. And I'll explain a little bit more about that. So what is change? Change is simple. It's make someone or something different. You just want to alter or modify it, right? Change is not always visible. And people use these terms interchangeably. And I understand that. But change is something external. You can go to your office one day and your boss says, well, we're going to change this. We're going to change how the layout of the room, or we're going to change this program. It's an external influence, right? You didn't have anything to do with it. You just abiding by whatever they said. That's change. And change is good, but not sustainable. So I was on a webinar one day, and this really got me thinking about change a lot more. And he was a doctor of something, I can't remember what it was, but he says, change is possible, but it's not likely. I was like, wow. I said, why is it not likely? Why can't people change? You know? So put in the chat right now, what's some of the things that's keeping you from changing? You know, and some of you have put some things in there already. What is the things that keeping you from changing? So he said the only way that people really can change, and they have research on it, they said some kind of catastrophic event takes place in their lives, right? Or they have like a mentor or a coach. I said, man, that seems, and he said only 30% of the people will even accomplish that with a mentor and a coach. 30% of the people. And the reason why is because habits. And we're going to talk about habits. So this is transformation. Transformation is different, right? It's a thorough or dramatic change in form or appearance. It's marked change as in appearance or character, usually for the better. Transformation is internal, is a fundamental change in your belief system. That's the difference. I hope somebody's taking some notes. Is an internal change. These are some of the examples of transformation. I'm gonna come back to the difference in a minute. I gave you some examples of transformation, a caterpillar becoming a butterfly. You know, some of the mentoring relationships that I witnessed, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, probably thousands of young people, lives were changing as a result of mentorship. My mother, you know, my mother passed away some years ago, and for a good bit of her life, she struggled with depression. And I saw her the last 7 years of her life completely transformed. And for me, that was amazing because I began to see my mom start living in freedom, which is where we get our tagline from now, living in freedom every day. You know the Bible story about, you know, Saul conversion. That's one of the famous stories. Even if you don't know anything much about the Bible or religion, you've heard of the conversion of Paul in the Bible. I actually took the time to look at the steps. I read that and look at the steps that I'm presenting, and Paul actually went through those steps, which I thought was really interesting. My own personal story. You know, I don't have time to get into my own personal testimony and all the things that I went through, but I remember writing my sister, who I was staying with at the time. I told her, I said, when I come back, I will not be the same again. Right? I went through my own transformation. And then one of my business partners and I, we do some work around racial, we call it the racial wealth gap, but it's around race relationships and diversity, equity, and inclusion. A transformation is an extreme radical change. Just like what I talked about with the butterfly. Now, I ask you, are you ready for an extreme change? Are you ready to sacrifice some things that you haven't sacrificed before? And I know a lot of you on the call today, you're here because there was some interest in transforming some area of your life. And once we go over these steps, the great thing about it is you can transform one part of your life. It doesn't even have to be anything that's, you know, around, you know, fear or something. It could be something external that you want to transform. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. So the difference between change and transformation. Change uses external influence to modify actions, but transformation modifies beliefs. So actions become natural and thereby achieve the desired results. I give you an example. My daughter came to us, you know, a couple of years ago, and she said she wanted to get a tattoo. Now, this is not indictment, you know, about tattoos, but we've shared with her over the years that, Mariah, we don't want you to get a tattoo. We don't want you to mark up your body like that. Because I had one of my interns, right? My intern, a great guy, love him to death. I even hired him for different projects. He had a couple of tattoos when I saw him. And then a year later, I saw him, he was completely covered. And I said, man, you got a lot of tattoos. What happened? He said, man, I got addicted to it. He said, I couldn't stop. He said, matter of fact, they told me to stop coming, to give my arms time to heal. And I was like, wow, and he started out with some cartoons, one of his favorite cartoons. And it just morphed to a body full of tattoos. And so this was my reference. I was talking to my daughter because all I can see, right, is my daughter coming back with all these tattoos. And so we were talking to her, you know, about it, and she would ask about it. I said, well, go pray about it. Just go pray about it. And it was interesting to see our daughter go from not having a belief system or believing something very different about tattoos to now feeling comfortable with it. It was her own journey. And that internal change that has to happen, that belief system that, okay, parents, I love y'all, but I don't believe that no more. You know, something that has now resonated with me that's going to allow me to make this transformation. And she really went through the steps, pretty much all of the steps to get to that place. And it took her a couple of years. But we already knew she was going to get a tattoo because she jumps out of planes and she does all this other stuff. So we already know. We just kind of, you know, made her think about it a little bit more. So what will your transformation look like? I want you to put that in the chat. What will your transformation look like? What does it look like for you? What does it look like? What does it look like? Write in the chat, what will your transformation look like? In coaching, we call this naming it. Naming it. What will your transformation look like? On a scale from 1 to 10, how easy would it be to transform an area of your life? I also want you to put that in the chat. On a scale from 1 to 10, how easy would it be to transform an area of your life? Think about it. If Carl, you can let me know what's coming in. On a scale of 1 to 10.
So a couple comments coming in the chat. So to the first question, so liberation was one answer given. Another one was setting my mind to do something and sticking with it. Another one was freedom. Another person said, in my transformation, I would be peaceful and altogether peaceful. Someone else said fearlessness, boldness, peace, abundance, and God's favor overflowing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just a lot of really great comments.
Yeah.
Different kinds of things.
Good, good. That word freedom, you know, that stuck out. Everybody's looking for some level of freedom. How about the 1 to 10 scale? How difficult would it be? How easy would it be to transform an area of your life? How easy would that be for you?
We're seeing 7s, 6s, a couple 5s come in. One person said 10. Yeah, 6, a couple more 6s. So ranging between like 5 and 10. And so Barry, let me ask you this. When you say how easy, in terms of the scale itself, are you saying like 1 would be very easy and 10 would be very difficult, or is it the other way around?
Right, it's that way. 1 would be easy. Yeah, 1 would be easy, 10 would be difficult.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. Well, good. That's a good, you know, indicator of, you know, how people really feel about their ability to try to go through a transformation, because it is a journey. And as we start thinking about, and I want to, you know, just set the framework, because these are some of the things that really keep us from making our transformation. 45% of the behaviors people did in a day was habit versus actual decision making. Isn't that something? This is some research by Duke University. Derek, have you seen that information before?
Yes. Yeah. I remember actually seeing it, and you know, it's almost half of behaviors I remember seeing that people are on autopilot. You know, they're just not thinking at all about it.
Yeah. And so put in the chat, how many people are living their lives on autopilot? You know, how many people are doing that? How many people are living their life on autopilot? Not even thinking about, and you know, autopilot is real for everybody. No one really escapes autopilot, right? Because actually living portions of your life in autopilot is okay. It helps you be more efficient in doing some things. But I hate when I get into the car sometime And I'm so used to going somewhere, I just go without even thinking about where I'm going. That's autopilot. So is autopilot keeping you from reaching your goals? So that's the question that we want to ask. Our brains have developed an unconscious decision-making system so we can take care of the routine tasks and not get into the minutia and the science of this, because I'm no scientist. But here's what researchers say that autopilot mode is. It's fast and intuitive. It's unconscious. You're just doing it, right? Without even thinking about it. It's automatic. I mean, it's like, bang, I'm waking up, as soon as I'm going to brush my teeth. I'm not even thinking about those things. It's routine decisions that you're making. And it's biased and prone to mistakes. That's autopilot mode. Now, system 2 is a little bit different. System 2 is slow and logical. You're actually thinking about what you're doing. You're very conscious. You know, it needs attention and energy. It helps you to make complex decisions. So start thinking about, as I start thinking about transformation, it's going to require some complexity, right? And you're unbiased and more reliable. You see the difference between autopilot and mindful mode? So these are 5 signs you are living on autopilot. And here they are. Your routine is predictable. Your calendar is full of repetitive activities, and you follow your plan without even thinking about it. It's routine. You are pleasing others. You let other people's expectations define your choice. You are not paying attention to what you need. And I'm gonna bring my marriage experts in right here. Do you see the marriages since you've been working, that we have married couples on this call, work with married couples? Do you see them on autopilot in their relationships?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
Talk about it a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. I think, I think for a lot of people, they end up on autopilot in their relationships. And it's very interesting, even in situations where they want things to be different, they oftentimes still kind of are on autopilot in terms of how they approach each other and approach themselves. And so they want the results of transformation to occur in their marriage, but oftentimes you don't see that internal change within themselves that's going to be required to do it. So they're still running on autopilot. And funny enough, they'll be frustrated that things aren't changing, but then you ask them about how they're changing internally and nothing's happening there. So it's very interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting. You are always on. You never pause to reflect on how you're feeling or what you're doing. You're just busy, distracted, or both. I like to say you're too busy to be better. That's one of my quotes. You're just too busy to be better. You're on autopilot. Number 4, you feel like time is just flying by. And I don't know, sometimes I definitely feel like that. You cannot remember what you did throughout the day. You ever had a conversation with somebody? What did you eat today? Today, what did I eat? You feel guilty, like you haven't accomplished much. Are anybody identifying with any of these signs that you're on autopilot? You believe you are missing out. You know you can have more joy, but you can't help wandering around. And these are signs that you're on autopilot. And I don't want to give autopilot a bad rap. As I mentioned, autopilot actually helps you in some degree. But the problem is we don't turn off autopilot. We were at our townhouse last week, and we noticed that it was getting hot in the house. And it was, when we got there, we first arrived, it was 73 degrees. And we noticed over time that it started getting hotter. So we just turned the thermostat off. But guess what happened? It continued to get hotter. And we were trying to figure out what in the world is going on because the unit is off. And that's how autopilot really is. because it was still, even though the unit was off, it was still working. You know, it was still getting hotter and hotter. I had to actually go into the breaker box and cut the breaker box off to shut the whole system down. And that's what happens, what we need to do in terms of when we start this process of transformation, we got to shut our whole system off, system one off, and go to system two so we can become this mindful mode, slow and logical, conscious, needs attention and energy, able to make complex decisions, unbiased and more reliable. So when you feel like you're on autopilot mode a lot, there's something you can do about it. And so notice how you drive, because this is one of the number one sabotagers of us getting better, us growing. So notice how you drive. That just simply means how is your decision making? Are you making choices merely from the autopilot? How about write a journal or take notes to increase awareness? Notice how you drive, because when you're in the car, we know a lot, we're doing a lot. We're doing a lot these days. And there's so many times I think to myself, man, I could have really gotten into an accident because I'm not paying attention. So set your GPS is another strategy that you can use. And that just simply means know exactly where you want to go. And that's so important. Where do you want to go next? You can't just, say, oh, I'm going to get here. No, you got to know exactly where your destination is in life. How do you want people to remember you? Bring meaning to your regular routines. If you have something, so for example, if you are eating the same thing, spice your food up. As a married couple, sometime, and even singles, you just go to Chick-fil-A all the time. You just like autopilot to Chick-fil-A. I love Chick-fil-A personally, but maybe you need to go to, I'm not going to say some of the other ones, but go to some other good places that you like. Take the time to stop and reflect. We're in a society today that we just don't stop. We don't reflect on things. We just keep on moving, keep on moving, keep on moving. And then next one is go beyond your comfort zone. This is one that we're going to talk about a little later because it is an actual step of transformation. How do we go beyond what we're comfortable with? Because that, to me, is one of the main reasons why, and I see it, in my clients, they don't want to go beyond the difficult parts. And then making better decisions. If you start making better decisions, life decisions, because sometimes we just make bad decisions on autopilot. So we got to start making better decisions, better choices as it relates to helping us move forward. So we're talking about a little bit about habits and the importance of developing good habits. In the chat, would you put some of your good habits that you have, and also maybe some of the bad habits that you have? And I know Cara can talk about that with some of our married couples. Expose yourself, Cara. What's some of your not so good habits in marriage?
Not making time for each other. Not dating each other, not having fun together, not having deep, meaningful conversations together. The list could go on and on.
The list can go on. Yeah. Exactly. Those are bad habits. What's some of the good habits that you have?
Opposite. Like actually spending time with each other, having fun, doing things together, talking intimately, creating space for each other, because a lot of times we get so busy with work, school, kids, all of these other things, all of these other obligations that are seemingly pressing and important at the moment, and so we neglect our relationship because we can always put ourselves on the back burner.
Yeah, absolutely. It doesn't matter whether you're married or single, it's the same thing, right? In some of the relationships that that even as single people that we have, right? Nothing will change your future trajectory like your habits. Habits are some of the most important, and when you start talking about transformation, habits is really it. That's a good start. So good habits help us reach our goals more effectively and efficiently. Bad ones make things harder or prevent our success entirely. Bad habits, and you hear me using this word, and I'm using it intentionally, sabotage. Bad habits will sabotage your opportunity to transform your life. Habits are powerfully influence our automatic behavior. There's some things that we do automatically when we have really good habits.
Aaron,
Yes.
just real quick, I just wanted to just interject real quickly that, and a big part of the habits that we have and just the way in which we approach life, a lot of that is kind of, programmed into us, right? And so a lot of times how we grow up, our backgrounds, that kind of thing, we're not aware of it, but we are being programmed during those times. And so that stuff is really on an unconscious level. And so once it's hardwired in, it becomes very difficult to break from that. So it takes a lot of what you're saying, which is you have to be very deliberate, because you have to oftentimes undo things that you didn't even realize was happening. And in the same way with relationships, you have to really start to undo some of the things that you weren't even aware of that you were doing, or the ways you were thinking that were programmed into you. And so you have to be very deliberate about that process. Otherwise, you're just going to keep doing the same things over and over again, even though you want a different result.
Yeah. And so basically what you're saying is habits literally rewire our brains, right? Hardwire our brains. And we can become prisoners to our own habits, our own bad habits. This is how we sabotage our success. Thank you, Jared, for adding that. So how do we create a new habit? In the chat, how long does it take? How long does it take to create a new habit? I'm interested to see that, because this is something that we've heard all of our lives, right? Put it in the chat. How long does it take?
21 days seems to be a good consensus.
21 days. That's it. 21 days. And we have some people, I want to hear from a couple of people. I've been talking for a little while. Talk about some of their habits. Anybody can unmute themselves and talk about maybe some of the good habits or the habits they need to change. Anybody? Let's hear from you.
Okay, good night, everyone.
Bye.
All right, so I want to share mine because it's weird. I have a bad habit of waiting on perfect timing. And when I say perfect timing, the time has to be even or equal. So let us say I wake up at 8:02. I'm like, 8:02, this time looks wrong. Let me just close my eyes and wait until 8:15 or 8:30. You know how much time I would have lost between 8:02 and 8:15 or 8:30 to get something done. So that is a bad habit, and I'm really trying to work on it.
That's interesting. That's an interesting one. Thank you for sharing that. Anybody else? All right, so how do you create a new habit? There's a lot of information out there about that. The Power of Habit is a great book if you want to know more information about habits. First, you have to have in 21 days it could possibly happen, right? But it can also happen in 60 days, or it can happen in 31 days. So there's no specific number that a habit can take place. because it's based on you as an individual. But I do know, all the stuff that's been going on, lately, and I've been following it. I'm not a big political person, but I've been intrigued by all the stuff that's been going on. And so in the morning when I wake up, I started looking at my information about, all the different news stuff that's been going on. And I noticed about maybe like a week or so, I kept on doing it. And it wasn't just, specific information. I started picking up my phone and start looking at it. The first thing I went to was news of the day. I never did that before. And then one day, and this is funny, the other day, I actually put my phone down and I said, no, I'm not going to look at it today. And then I couldn't. I was like, I want to see. And it dawned on me, because I'm looking at all this stuff about habit creation, I started the process of developing a habit. That's how simple and easy it is to develop a habit. Because before you know it, it can be on you, And it became a challenge. I had to tell myself, put it down. Don't do that. You don't have time for that today. But I still wanted to look at the information. So how do we create a habit? We got to have a cue, right? We got to have something that cues us. So if you read the book by Charles Drucker, The Power of Habit, he gives an example about toothpaste. And he says, he was talking about, what was the name of the toothpaste? Pepsodent, when it first came out in the early 1900s. And what they did with Pepsodent was they wanted people to start brushing their teeth. Prior to the 1900s, early 1900s, people didn't brush their teeth. That seems kind of weird, right? People didn't brush their teeth. Hardly. It was usually, rich people would brush their teeth. Everyday person would. So he decided that he would, because he was a marketer, he was an advertiser. And he said, we'll tell the people that there is film on their teeth. And, we've done that in the morning, right? We get up and we look around and we feel that film. And he says, because there's film, that cues people to go brush their teeth, because they was trying to increase sales. And so you have to have that cue, that something that cues you and say, oh, let me do this, right? And then once you get the cue, here comes the routine. The routine is the behavior you either want to change or you want to reinforce, right? And so here I am brushing my teeth because I feel that film and I want to get that film out of there, and I'm doing that now every day. Now my habit is starting to be formed. But in order for a habit to really take place, you have to have some kind of reward. And so in the story, he talks about, I will tell them that if they brush their teeth, that they'll have a beautiful smile and they'll have clean breath. They went as far as putting something in the toothpaste that made their mouth irritated. It was an irritant for their mouth. And it made them feel like you were getting fresh, clean breath. We do that today, right? We determine that our teeth is fresh because we feel that little tingly sensation. That tingly sensation is not clean, is what they created to give you that feeling of a reward, right? And so when you start talking about habits, you got to have a cue, you got to have a routine, and you have to have a reward. So when we want to create good habits, I want you to think about that. What's the cue that you're going to start? How is that going to lead to the routine that you're going to be consistent doing? And then what's your reward? Because at the end of the day, the reward has to be powerful enough for that habit to really take place. And so let's talk about the steps of transformation. Have anybody played the game Capture the Flag? That's one game I really hadn't played a whole lot of. But the whole idea is for one team to capture the flag of the other. So it's your goal, right? And when you're thinking about your goals, goals are great. I recommend goals to people because they really kind of help you establish what you want to do. But you can't have goals without establishing new habits. And that's really important. You know, I had one client in specifically who wanted to, we were working through some goal setting with them, and they didn't set goals. And I thought to myself, I said, how can someone not set goals? That's just elementary to me. But I didn't realize at the time there's a lot of people don't set goals. You know, that's something that just because I do something, that don't mean everybody else does it. And so I was talking to her about it, and I said, why don't you set goals? She said, I don't know. She said, I don't want to limit myself. She said, I'm an out of the box kind of person. And I said, so you're not going to use goals because you're out of the box. But what we discovered in the process of our relationship was when she was in high school, she had an opportunity to go sing with this major group, and she wasn't able to go. That was a part of her dream, but she wasn't able to participate, and it shut down her ability to want to have goals because she was so disappointed that she didn't have that opportunity. She felt like goals were unnecessary. Some of you may be feeling that way, that your goals that you have set prior to or over the years, they hadn't come true. So why bother? Why am I setting goals when nothing's going to happen? A goal is an idea of the future or desired result that a person or a group of people envision, plan, and commit to achieve. You have to know what you want. And there's a lot of information behind that I'm going to just kind of go through these, but you have to know what you want. When you start thinking about goals, you have to set a goal that something that resonates with you, not just, something obscure, but it needs to identify and understand what you want to change. That's very important. You have to align that goal with something that you actually want to change. Your goal has to align with your core values, and that's really important. People have goals, and those goals are just very abstract goals, and they don't stick. Or if you reach that goal and, after, some time, if you don't reach that goal or it's very difficult for you, you just give up because it hadn't really aligned with your values. And when something aligns with your values, you have a better opportunity to establish that goal. So some of the problems with goals, and as I said, I'm a goal person, but there are some issues and problems with goals. Goals have an endpoint. This is why many people revert to their previous state after reaching a certain goal. And I talked about that earlier. You're trying to get into a dress or you're trying to get into a suit, and what happens? You reach that goal and then it's over. Just like my client, she lost 70 pounds. And then when I stopped working with her, she put the weight back on and even more. Goals rely on factors which we do not always have control over. It's an unavoidable fact that reaching a goal is not always possible regardless of your effort. So I want you to write some of your goals in the chat. Just write some of your goals that you have. It can be big or small. Goals doesn't have to be, gigantic goals. It doesn't have to be you want to become president of the United States. It could be simple goals, but thoughtful goals that resonate with you. What's some of the goals that you have? I want you to chat in. And you can, matter of fact, if you want to unmute yourself and verbally express your goals, you can do that as well. Let everybody know what your goals are. Let everybody know what your goals are.
One person said, do something active every day for at least 30 minutes.
Every day. I just tell my clients 150 minutes, 150 minutes a week.
Mhm.
That's what they recommend.
Minimum.
So if you don't do it every day, guess what? 150 minutes, which is what? 60 minutes, 3 days. Well, I normally do 60 minutes for 3 days a week, 180, minutes. Make it attainable, right? You can't exercise 4 or 5 days, but if I can get 150 minutes in, and that's what they recommend, that might only be 2 days or 3 days, and you're still getting the health benefits that you need. Okay. What else, Cara, do you see?
Get rid of all the clutter that I have collected over the years and stop saying things and stop saving things because it's attached to a memory or a person who is deceased. And have you read the book, Charlene Mary Kondo's book? I highly recommend that for decluttering. Does it bring you joy is the question you asked to get the answer to that. Launch my new gift box collection this spring. So that's a business goal. Read the books of the Bible I have never read, to start an empowerment business. Go out and have fun alone. I like that. I
Yeah.
love that. Support at least 5 local authors. Nice.
Nice.
Trademark business logo, register my business name, create a website, become a best-selling author.
Yeah.
My goal is to use what I learned today to set weekly goals for myself and create good habits.
Nice.
I love that.
Yeah. Those are all obtainable goals. One of the things because I love clothes and all of that, but what I started doing, and I think I saw this show on Oprah, as you talk about people just hoarding. Every time I buy something new, I take something out. And I've gotten to the point now, because it's easy when you have something that you like, that you don't like, and you just are tired of wearing it, you can get it out. But I started recently, if I buy something new, some stuff I like, I started still giving it away. And I was like, man, I don't know about this process that I'm using, but it's one of these habits that I've created that's good habits that allows my closet not to be overwhelmed. Because when you see stuff all around you, it clouds a lot of your judgment and your decision making and the things that you do. Step 2, research. You remember this goal, this game, hot and cold? I love this. This is actually a video that I saw with these 2 kids, and they were going through hot, cold, and he was just looking for stuff. And that's how this research is. We have to actually take the time to research what that goal is. That's really important. And this don't seem like a typical step. And I've seen some other steps of transformation, and I haven't seen this one. This is my own, because I know how important it is for you to really get an understanding of what you want to do. But that research, I call it internal research and external research, right? The internal research is really, where am I? As a person, what am I, what's really holding me back? My personal coach, as I was going through my training for ICF, and my coach said to me, she said, Baron, why are you not sending your information out? And I said, what are you talking about? I'm busy. She said, no, why are you not sending out your information? And after a couple of sessions, I finally admitted that I was just fearful. How would people respond to it? Is it going to be good enough? Am I going to get any likes? Are people going to buy my courses? All these questions that I had, and she kept on saying to me, do it, do it, pushing me to do it. And that was a part of my internal research, right? And all of us have to think about where they are. One of my, and as a person of faith, I love the scripture when it talks about, David says, search my heart, O Lord. And in the Greek, that word means dig. Sefer means to dig, dig down deep. And it's like a dog digging for a bone. You ever seen that before? When a dog is digging for a bone that they hid, and they just, just ferociously going after it. And that's how it is, what we need to do. We need to think about what is really going on in our lives. Now, how about marriage, right? How do we, be able to internally think about our relationships? Because it's easy for us to blame the spouse, right? That means we don't take any personal responsibility for it. It's their fault, right? But when you start thinking about your research, not just finding out more stuff about your goals. So when I was going through my process with the transformation of the room, I started researching people, or researching what is that space would look like? What did I want it to look like? How much would it cost? And so I started doing this little cost analysis. I started looking at maybe people that, would help me. I went through a process of research, what kind of cabinets I would put in there. And it took me some time, and I only had, 2 weeks. So I implore you to spend time researching your goal. Spend some time with it. It's really important. Aside from the pure pursuit of knowledge for its own sake, research is linked to problem solving. And so if you start, if you're thinking about a problem that you want to solve, research helps you do that. And research also creates a path for generating new questions. And that's what you want to do. As you go through this process of transformation, you want to constantly be asking yourself questions. What do I need to do next? What do I need to do next? How can I push myself a little bit further? What do I need to do to make this happen? Internal and external research. Now, this is one of my favorite ones. And this, how our relationship with Cara and Jared, right? You have to find somebody that can help you. Now, for me, this is actually a very difficult one. It was very difficult because as a coach, you just know what to do, right? You got to find somebody that can help you. Now, Rebecca was the lady that I found to help with the transformation of this space. Now, Rebecca was really nice. She was sweet. And she came over and she just looked at the space. Now, this is what I did. I cleaned up the space. 12 or 13 hours I spent cleaning it up before I brought Rebecca in. Because we don't want people to see our junk, right? We don't want people to see our mess. So I tried to clean it up as much as I possibly could before I let her in. And so she came in and I told her about it. And she said, "Man, you didn't have to do that." I was like, "Oh, yes, I did. I had to do that." But when she came in and started assessing the situation, she said, "Okay." All she was saying, "Okay." And I was like, I know this is bad. And I said, "I have a 2-week window." She was like, "Okay. Okay." So you got to find someone that shares your commitment to change and not just somebody trying to get a paycheck. Now, here's this person that I was using, Rebecca. Rebecca was a Duke graduate. She had quit her job. And she said she had a master's degree, an MBA from Duke. And she said, "I just want to organize people's houses and their closet and their spaces." I was like, whoa. So it wasn't about the money for her. She really had a passion and desire to help somebody. Guys, can I tell you something? You can't do this on your own. All right? I'm gonna have an awkward pause right there. I want you to think about it. Who can you bring into your space that can help you transform your life? You can't do it by yourself. I used to love to live on an island. I just rather do it by myself. That was my whole mindset. I just rather do it by myself. I don't want to take the time to share with people and, have them critique it or, whatever else I was thinking about it. Who can help you with your journey? Is it a friend? Is it somebody that actually paid, You know, Cara and Janet are good friends of mine. Guess what? They were paying. They still paid, you know? You got to find somebody that fits with your personality type to have the best synergy. And that's really important. You don't want to find somebody that can help you and you're just constantly clashing with them all the time. But you also want them to challenge and push you beyond your limits. So Rebecca, she would say, you know, we start taking all this stuff out, and I'll show you some pictures a little bit later. And she says, after we started getting everything out, she says, so what you gonna do about that carpet? And I said, the carpet? I said, I'm gonna vacuum it. In other words, she was like, you need to do a little bit something more. She was trying to be nice, but I understood what she needed, what she was saying. She was basically saying, you need to do something different. And she challenged me. Just like this picture of tug of war, when you start thinking about kids or thinking about, you know, playing tug of war, I don't know if you've done that as an adult lately. It's fun, but see this whole group of people, this whole group of kids that's actually helping pull to the other side. I want you to think about your advisory team, your group of people that can help you pull you to your transformation. Find someone who will challenge and push you beyond your limits. Find someone who shares your vision. Find someone who is willing to give you more than what you expect. And that's what you want. At the end of my time with Rebecca, it was like, wow, she really helped me get to my expected end. So be patient. I heard somebody mention that before. Mm-hmm. So if we can have somebody, you know, you can share, you can also put in the chat, but I would love to hear from somebody about being patient. You know, what are some of the challenges that you have around being patient? Whether you're single or you're a married couple, we all struggle because we're in a microwave society, right? Everybody wants something quick. Don't be at a stoplight for more than 2 seconds and the light has turned green, right? People will blow their horn at you like you've been there for 10 minutes. You know? You see something in the chat about being patient? I would love somebody to talk about it.
I agree with you. It's like change just takes long.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, I think even when you look in the Bible and you see the timeline that God works on in people's lives, you know, look at something like Moses and who Moses became, but where Moses started. You know, Moses was away from Egypt before coming back to lead the Israelites for a whole 40 years, you know, and God was working on him and putting him in a position where he needed him to be. And so sometimes we have to be really patient because, you know, we miss out on success and transformation, I think, because we are just too impatient, not realizing that, you know, oftentimes the most powerful changes requires a lot of time and energy. And sometimes it takes more time than we even feel like we want to give, but that's what is necessary.
Yeah. Absolutely. So step 4 is halfway. And that's why specifically I put it that right at number 4, because this is the time after you get some help from somebody in step 3 and you're feeling, you know, good about your progress. And then you start getting a little bit antsy. You're like, this is taking a little bit too long. Like the picture that I showed you at the beginning of the steps. We want to get to the end. We want to get to the end product. We want to see those pictures of transformation and say, wow, I got here. I love the double Dutch. We've seen, you know, young ladies and men do the double Dutch. Is one of the things when I grew up in New York, we would see all the time. And that patient requires you to just wait on your turn, wait to jump in, right? They just sitting there waiting for the right jump so they can get in, especially when you have multiple people, right? And we've seen 3 or 4 people get into a group. You just can't just run and jump in there. You know, you have to be patient. So making a transformation in any area of your life, it just takes time, it takes energy, and a lot of effort. and it takes a plan. Having patience means being able to wait calmly in the face of frustration. Sometimes you're just going to be really, really frustrated about it. And that's okay. That's why having somebody that can help you will make a difference. When you start facing the adversity, because this transformation is significant, right? So you're going to face some adversity. It's just not going to go smooth sailing. Like I said, I've been going through a transformation myself for a year and a half, and I can tell you, it has been bumpy, very bumpy. And I love the neuroscience of patience, otherwise known as the patient effect. It says serotonin increases in our brain if a timely reward is 75% guaranteed. And this is how it works. You can go, Katrina and I used to go to Hardee's when they first came out with their Angus burgers. And they would tell us, they said, you know what? It's going to take a few minutes because we want to make sure your burger is hot and juicy. And normally, you're going through a fast food drive-through, you want it fast. That's what it's all about. But we would patiently wait for that burger because we knew that it would be hot. And that's what researchers say. 75, if you have a 75% guarantee, we can be more patient. If we know what we're trying to accomplish and do on the other end, we can be more patient. So when you start thinking about your own transformation and you being patient, what is it that you can increase your odds on? That you can be 75% sure that your transformation will be able to occur. Step number 5, celebrate your victories along the way. This is one of the most important steps that you can take. This is one that I also struggled with. You know, I love the red light, green light game. And I know many of you have played that before. One day, my son and I, we were, in the car, and he must have been 3 years old or 4 years old. And we had been out all day playing, going to different parks and having a good time. And we were on the way home, and he says to me, he said, "Dad, what's next?" I said, "What's next?" And I said, "Son, what's next? We've been doing this all day. I'm ready to go home. I'm tired." And he says, "So what are we going to do next?" I said, we're going home. And I remember in that moment thinking to myself, and it came to me that this is you. This is what you do. You always try to get to the what's next without celebrating your victories along the way. And we have a bad habit of that in this society, right? We just want to get to the next thing. We just want to get to the next. And that's all I used to do. Before I started examining what success, redefining what success really was for me, it was all about the next thing that I can accomplish. The next thing I can accomplish. I took very little time to celebrate. And if I did, it was short and I was moving on. Are you like that? Are some of you experiencing the lack of celebrating your victories? That's why if you're trying to lose weight and you lose 2 pounds, you better act like you done lost 10. If you have a saving goal that you're trying to save $1,000 for the month, and you got your $10 saved, you better act like you already reached your goal of 1,000. Celebrate along the way. You are really self-sabotaging your process of transformation when you don't take the time to celebrate your victories. Everyone who's on this call, listen to me very carefully. Celebrate your victories along the way. If you're having a difficult time in your marriage or in a relationship that you're in, and it starts getting better, guess what? Celebrate that. Tell somebody. You almost want to get to the point where you just almost kind of bragging about it, if that helps you. And a lot of times we don't want to do that. You're not celebrating because you made some huge achievement. You are celebrating because you successfully changed a habit and you reinforced good behavior. And that's really what you're celebrating. That's really what you're celebrating. I would love to hear from a couple of people about what have you celebrated lately? Whether it was small or good, you can even talk about it too. What have you celebrated? You can put in the chat. What have you celebrated lately for yourself? Big or small? What have you celebrated? You got anything coming in, Jared?
No, I'm not sure if, and I think that may be, well, okay, some are coming in right now. Okay, good. So launching my membership club, that was one person's comment. Another one was the life of my son being 6 months. So celebrating the 6 months of the life of her son. Yeah.
Yeah. That the person who's starting the business club, you said?
The membership club, yeah.
The membership club. Yeah, that's awesome. And we should all give those two people who mention what they celebrate, give them a high five. Because we have to get in the habit, as we're talking about habits of celebrating our success and not feel like we have to hold it back because we want to undervalue what we're doing, right? And it doesn't matter. People might say, well, that don't seem like a whole lot. Oh, but it's a whole lot to me because I'm going through my process of transformation. Number 6. And this was one of my favorite games, growing up. In New York, I'll tell you what my nickname was. My nickname was Ribbon. I used to live in New York, and we used to play this game all the time. Red Rover, send Ribbon right over. And the reason they called me Ribbon because I was just faster than everybody. And I would always just break the plane because I was driving so fast. And so Red Rover, the whole idea was to keep that person from breaking through. And you can see the picture of the girl trying to go through, and they stopped her. And I have these images up here because I want you to make this mental note and association that I need to be like a child in my transformation process. I need to, have fun. I need to, not be so serious about this issue or what I'm trying to accomplish. Not take myself so seriously. When you meet your personal limits, you feel resistant. This makes everything feel much harder to accomplish. Building up your discipline muscles can mentally prepare you to go beyond your limits. And that's what you want to do. When you get to that point where you don't think you can actually do it and get to the end, you got to go beyond that. There's one thing that I do personally, and I do this pretty much every day. I go up and exercise. And I'm running and I'm getting tired, and I look at, maybe I'm on the road and I see a stop sign I want to get to. And I always go beyond that stop sign. It could be, 10 yards further. I always try to go further because I'm trying to build up my discipline muscles, right? Because you need to, it's just like anything, you going into a gym, you lifting weights, it's the same thing. You have to build up your discipline muscles. And once you become disciplined enough, you can start going beyond the things that you think you can do. You have to adjust your mindset. Number 7, staying focused. I've heard that a number of times tonight. Being focused means being able to pay attention to your plan and control everyday distractions that life puts in your path. This is musical chairs, right? One of my favorite games, and I'm sure some of your favorite games as well, because you had to be paying attention. You had to be focused when you were doing musical chairs, unless you were going to get out, right? You were going to miss the chair, or you were going to do something. Stay focused. Focus is so important because it is the gateway to all of our thinking, our perception, our memory, our learning, our reasoning, our problem solving, and decision making. All of those things are important in terms of us helping keep our focus. Because if we're not focused, we're all over the place. We're not going to be able to transform our life. We're just not. It has to become, you have to be so focused on it that you're literally putting aside some of the things maybe you want to do or have done before. You have to develop a singular focus in terms of, this is what I want to get accomplished. and this is how I'm going to do it. Being focused is undoubtedly going to make you feel more positive and controlled in your life. A lot of my clients, they just don't have a lot of focus. They have the skill, they have the desire, but they just don't have the focus. And that just holds you back. And then the final step is, of course, take action, you know, and it's time to take action. I love this movie. I watched it called Tag because, you know, they got pretty extreme. And it was a fun movie to watch, and the things that they went through just to tag somebody, which was pretty cool. But that's really what take action is all about. You got to go through some extreme things to take action sometimes. You have to finish what you started. I tell this to my son all the time. I said, son, you got to finish what you start. Getting to step number 4 is good, but it ain't great if you don't finish. All right. This is the time that fear and anxiety might start creeping in. Now you're starting to get a little anxiety around it because you're like, man, I've done all these different things, all these steps, but now what's going to happen? You know, am I going to actually be able to do it? When I was going through that transformation with the room, time started passing by, and I was like, man, Katrina's going to be home soon, and I'm not going to make my goal. I start getting anxious about it. And I was like, man, we got to, you know, we got to speed this thing up. I was going to all these stores and buying stuff, and I was ordering stuff on Amazon and was hoping it would come in time, because you start thinking about, is this really going to happen? You know, but even worse, if that transformation worked. And that's the opposite end of it, right, Jared?
Yeah.
That's the opposite end.
Yeah.
Sometimes we get to a point where we just scared that it will actually take place, because what are our friends going to say? What are our spouse going to say? You know, how are they going to deal and adjust with this new me? Are they going to be jealous of me? You know, am I going to try to shrink down and back because of my transformation? You know, so it's just as powerful on one side or the other. So many of the greatest moments in our life reside on the other side of our fears. So I just want to encourage you to take action. Take action.
Yeah. I think that was a really good point you just made there, Baron, because I think the fear of success is as probably as big as the fear of failure for many of us, and what our lives will look like and so forth. I remember in the movie Good Will Hunting with Ben Affleck and Matt Damon, and Matt Damon was a super genius, and his best friend was Ben Affleck, and they came from a very poor area in Boston. And, you know, coming towards the end of the movie, Matt Damon had the opportunity to do something really, you know, special and to really put his life forward in a big direction, because he was really smart, and he was trying to shirk away from that. And Ben Affleck had to come and say, look, you know, you're much smarter than me. You're, you know, what you can do is going to be much greater than what I can do. You need to do this. You have to do this. You can't do what we're doing because you can. And I think a lot of times we sabotage ourselves in our relationships, in our individual personal growth, because we're afraid of, you know, what success will look like. And so we say to ourselves that I'm just not going to do it just because, and come up with all sorts of reasons for why. But, you know, all of those things are motivated by fear at the end of the day.
Yeah. And that's one of the number one things, as you said, that will hold us back. And it shows up in different ways, right? And we have to admit it to ourselves. I told someone the other day, the biggest lie that we can tell is to ourselves. That's the biggest lie that we can tell, is to ourselves. So here are the steps. Again, set your goals. You know, really take time to spend with your goals. Do your research, external research and internal research. You should know everything about what you want to transform. Everything about it, you should know. You should have a document, a spreadsheet, or something that, you know, you've put together. not just, a saying on the refrigerator, but go deeper. Find someone to help you. I'm a professional coach. I would love to help you if you need help from a coach, but find someone else that can help you. Be patient, celebrate your victories along the way, go beyond what you think you can do, stay focused, and then take action. And I think that's important. So we want to take some questions, some of the kind of next steps. Does anybody have any questions that they want me to ask, or any comments that you want to make? Please do.
Well, let me ask you this question, Baron, because I was thinking a little bit about it as you were presenting. So, I think sometimes for us, when we don't reach our goals, let's say we set our goals and we may have even put in the actions necessary to get there, but we don't reach our goals, how should we think about that? How should we think about not meeting our goals, even if we put in the actions necessary? What if we fall short? What kind of mindset should we have about that? And if we are planning towards goals that we're afraid of not meeting them, what kind of thoughts should we have about, even if I don't meet my goals, how should I be thinking about that?
Yeah, that's a good question, because failure to meet our goals is really an opportunity, and it's a learning opportunity. I've heard people say that I don't fail, I'm just collecting data, right? I'm just collecting data on what I need to do the next time. It's a part of the process. Some things just don't work out like we plan it to. But you want to definitely get back on the horse, so to speak. And if you need to adjust that goal some, because sometimes it just may be, we talk about SMART goals in the corporate setting and nonprofit setting, but we just need to make sure those goals are attainable for us. It can't be too stringent where it's going to overwhelm us. So I think it's important for people just to understand, if you don't reach that goal, that's not the end of it. Don't get so frustrated. That's where the patience come in too. Start back over if you have to, because the end reward will be so beneficial for you.
One question, and I think a lot of people probably have this question, is why does transformation feel so hard?
Yeah, because it is. Yeah, because it is. And there's no sugarcoating around it. And I tried to make it light. And that's why the importance of, for me, thinking about it, how children experience transformation. How they do things with the freedom that it requires to transform your life. And it is hard, and it is a challenge, but it's very doable. And I'm not saying to you all that this, you follow these steps and next week your life is going to be transformed. It's just not how it works. It's unrealistic. But what I have seen over my years of experience, and especially these last few years, that there is a sequence to change, to transformation. And if you follow this particular order, even if some of them get out of order, you need all of these things to help you in your process of transforming. But it's a journey. And I mentioned that earlier. It is a literal journey. But you can actually, you might want to put a time frame on it. That may be what we call stretch goals, right? You might say, well, in 2 years, I'm going to make this happen. You may accomplish it in a year, but you say 2 years, I'm gonna give myself, or I'm gonna give myself a year when it could take 6 months. So just be realistic. But that's why it's important to have somebody working with you that's helping you along the way. It doesn't have to be a professional. It just needs to be somebody that can help you and keep you accountable.
Right. Yeah, that makes me think about this phrase that says, if you think you can do something or you think you can't do something, you're right.
Yeah.
And the way change occurs, oftentimes one of the biggest things and primary things we have to have is really that mindset that I can accomplish something, I can do something. It may be difficult, it may be tough, but I can do it. And that, I think, for a lot of people, they have a lot of insecurity or doubt, and oftentimes their doubt then gets played out in terms of their actions. And so it's usually not a lot of kind of pointed, direct actions, because their doubt kind of messes them up and trips them up. We see that a lot, especially with couples.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I want to add something to the transformation piece and the question that you asked prior to. One thing I did forget to say is the fun part. Have fun with it.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to be this overwhelming feeling of, oh, this is such a burden. And that's what the pictures I wanted to reflect. Have fun with the transformation, because there's something that's going to be very powerful at the end of it.
Mm-hmm.
That you're going to be able to see a whole different you. Mm-hmm. Just like, that butterfly, that part of you will completely die, and what will erupt in you that's capable of changing the world.
Right.
Right. And so just have fun and have people that's a part of your journey. What I love what you guys were doing when we were on the Christmas, you guys were having your party. You can tell that there were people there that's helping you guys emotionally, and physically they're there and they're present, but they're also providing you that emotional support that you need, right, along the way. And we got to have people in our lives to be able to do that. And that's why one of the things that I thought about, and I just thought about actually this today, because if somebody's on this call and they want to actually participate in a pilot with these 8 steps, I thought about if we had 5 people or 10 people, but 5 in one group, and we would do 2 steps per 4 weeks, so we can have it in a month time. And we would meet once a week. Mm-hmm. And I thought about if people wanted to do something like that, you will have a built-in group that will help you. Of course, as the coach, I'm there, but having people along with you in that journey that will help you. So if you come to that first session is about goals, we're vetting out those goals. We're vetting them out and helping people kind of talk through them. And if that goal is not, don't make sense, somebody in that group, what I call the advisory team member, your advisory transformation team member, they say, oh, how are you going to do that? What are the resources that you're going to use to help you with that particular thing?
Right.
And so if people are interested in something like that, but this is the caveat, Jared, I don't want I don't want to get, this is not about us trying to get paid, but if you get to the end of these 4 weeks and you said, wow, this has really helped me, I would love for you to make a donation to our foundation.
Yeah.
Yeah. That would be great. But if it hadn't helped you, you don't do anything. Right. You just walk away. So we want to do a pilot. And if you're interested in something like that, you can reach out to us and let us know. And we'll love to share more information about it. Of course, we are 501c3, and we provide scholarships to young people. And we've seen young people's lives, changed. We provide scholarships. We have a program called the Go Giver Project that will be launching next year, and we also support missionaries all across the world. And so we would love to have you all, if somebody want to participate in this pilot. Like I said, I just thought about that today. I wasn't going to even, I don't have a slide on it or anything, but I thought about how can we have people work together and support each other and build a community just like you guys are building. It could be a subgroup within your community,
Mhm.
you know, because there's people from all over the country on this call. But if you're interested, you see my information out there. And I will tell you that here is the pictures that I were talking about in our own transformation, right? This is the space, as you can see. There was a lot of stuff going on, you know, and this is the finished product.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah,
Amazing.
that
Yeah,
that was the transformation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and now when you walk in there, you know, it's so nice and orderly and organized. Things are labeled, you know.
Oh, wow.
But the thing about it is when transformation occurs, this is no longer the place for the dumping ground, right? We're not just randomly just throwing stuff in here. You know, I'm monitoring the transformation, right? I go in there and say, okay, we need to straighten this up, you know,
Right.
because there's a lot of work that went into the transformation, right? And we have to protect it. We have to ensure that it continues to go on and on and on. And that's what we want to see for everybody who's on the call. So my final words to you is, may the next few months be a period of magnificent transformation. That's an anonymous quote. I want to see people, you know, transformed. Here's a picture of some of the scholarships. This young man, I think he was a part of the, you know, the DACA group,
Right.
and he was,
Remus.
yeah, he was, and you can see he got really emotional because he couldn't figure out how he could get any financial aid because his federal, he was undocumented, right? He was an undocumented student. He was a part of our leadership program, and he felt like he didn't have a hope. And we provided him a scholarship for $500. And I'm gonna tell you, that $500 of hope turned into $280,000 of scholarship.
Wow.
He ended up getting a full ride to Tufts University. The Tufts University, because we provided him hope. And so this is what, you know, what we're about, and helping people lives transform. And another young lady that she received our Make a Difference scholarship, and she was doing so much stuff in her local communities. And we just want to help young people grow and develop and transform their lives. So if anyone is interested in something like that, I don't have any of the details, but if you're interested, reach out to us. Cara and Jared have our information, and we would love to share more about that. All right, any more questions? Did you see any more questions, Jared? I know it's right at about 10 o'clock.
Yeah, almost 10. Not seeing any more questions there, but one person did ask before we wrap up, if you could go back to the slide that had the 8 steps all outlined on it, but they wanted to, I guess, maybe take a screenshot or something of it. You know, I mean, I just got to say though, you know, Baron, this was wonderful. This was an excellent presentation. And I think you really, you know, people oftentimes want to make big changes in their lives. I think most people do. Tonight, you really walked us through like what that looks like. You know, what do you need to actually do to make those changes? And it was very clear. And I think for a lot of people, the change process is very hazy. They don't know what it really looks like, but you really walked us through. So this was a great presentation. I know a lot of, you know, our community, the AM community, really benefited from being here. This was excellent. Thank you so much. And it's clear from what the things that you've spoken about that this is not just something you talk about. This is a process you are part of in different areas of your life, where, you know, many different people are benefiting from this kind of transformation process that you're talking about. So thank you so much for taking your time to share with us tonight. You know, the other things I would say really quickly is I want to make sure before people sign off is that, you know, one, we're going to be doing a women's retreat. Cara's going to be doing a women's, you know, online retreat on January 30th. All right. And so that information was put in the chat already. So make sure to sign up for that. You know, self-care is really, really important if you want to change your life. You have to take care of yourself if you really want to change your life. And so for all the women out there, please join Carl for that on January 30th. And then also we're going to be also doing another a presentation specifically for women on the topic of sex. So this is going to be a live on the topic of sex just for women in about 2 weeks time. So more information is going to be coming on that as well. So please, you know, join us for that presentation. I think that's going to be actually a really, really good one. So we're looking forward to that. But I just want to say again, thank you so much, Baron. This was really, really helpful.
Oh, great. And thank you guys for hosting it today. I really appreciate it. You guys are some of my favorite people. And it's just been a blessing and honor to be able to, you know, walk this journey with you all. I know that AM is in store for some tremendous things in 2021, like 2020. 2020 was just the beginning.
Right.
And so we're excited about your trajectory and where you're going. And because you put the work in this transformation part for you guys. And so thank you, everybody who participated tonight. Thank you. We really appreciate your time. We appreciate your comments, you interjecting your thoughts and your feelings. And I don't take that for granted and lightly. So thank you all. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you guys for joining us, and contact Baron definitely. I love that pilot idea that he had. Definitely reach out to him. His contact information is there. Feel free to call or message or email because, you know, change takes, you know, one of the most important things is that first step. And so that could be your first step tonight, is just reaching out to Baron and just kind of finding out what is needed to take step 2 and 3. So, you know, if you're even thinking about it, you know, nothing happens unless you make that first move. So definitely reach out to Baron. And thank you once again for just joining us again on Authentic Marriages for a presentation. We're looking forward to 2021. We have a lot of great things lined up this year, a lot of great lives and workshops coming up, and as well as coaching groups that we're going to be doing this year. So we're just really excited for 2021. And thank you guys for joining us for our first official event for that. And there's expect many more things to come down the line. Thank you guys, and have a great rest of your night.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, guys.
Good night.
Thank you guys so much. We'll see you soon.